One time I was fishing a small lake in southeastern Iowa, and I will never forget, we had one of those dream moments where you get on a pattern and it's repeatable across the entire lake. We found bass that were on the inside weed line. We weren't getting bit on the outside weed line, it was always on the inside weed line, and there was about 3 foot, there's a 3-foot opening, I would say, between the shoreline. The majority of it was a riprap shoreline, and then where that inside weed line started, and they were sitting right there. Well, that is the dream of a bass angler, is to get on a pattern that is repeatable, that you can take throughout the lake and have success. Well, one of the keys to making that repeatable is we absolutely have to decipher some important information immediately upon catching that fish. Even as you're bringing the fish to the boat, there's things that your brain needs to be cranking through. Too often we catch that fish, put it back, and just move right on down the shoreline. First thing to be thinking about is, what was the speed of your lure? Were you picking out a backlash and it was sitting down there in the bottom and a bass comes up, slurps it up, and swims off with it? If that's the case, that is telling you a ton of information. You're gonna have to really slow down. Or were you burning that lure? Were you ripping it back? Did it deflect off of a rock? So be thinking about lure speed when that bite comes so you can repeat it. The next thing to think about is depth, or I should say water column. What part of the water column were you in? Were you fishing the top? Were you fishing the mid depths, or were you all the way down on the bottom? Think about that. Is it repeatable? Number 3 is, what type of cover or structure did they come off of? And we really have to think detail. It wants to be more than just a weed bed, okay? Vegetation. Like I said at the beginning, are they on the inside or the outside of that weed bed? Is it a specific type of vegetation? Were they on milfoil? Were they on hydrilla? Were they where those two types of weeds actually met? So be thinking about in detail the type of vegetation, cover, or structure. As far as rock goes, was it fist-sized rock, pea gravel, chunk rock? What did you have going on there? So be thinking about that, because often bass will locate on a certain type of cover or structure and want to hang right there for a little bit. The other thing I really want to think about, and this can help us zero in that pattern, is when you get that bite, did the bass really inhale it, or did they just nip at it? And that can tell us so much information. If they inhale it, you've got a lot of things dialed in correctly. You had the speed dialed in correctly, the lure size, the type of lure, the color, all of those things you had really dialed in. You can fish away with confidence. But if they are just nipping at that lure, if you're catching them on the back treble, if you just barely catch them on that Texas rig, okay, they're not just hammering that thing, you might want to try adjusting some things. The thing that I will most often adjust is my color. That's the first thing that I will do, and my goal is to get them to inhale it. And of course, not every day they aren't going to do that, but that is our goal. That's what we're trying to get to. So be thinking about those different things all the time as you're bass fishing, and you can make it repeatable. You can turn a 3 or 4 fish afternoon or evening, maybe into a 15 or 20 fish evening. It absolutely is repeatable. And hey, if you want to watch a video that talks about line visibility between sunlight and clouds, go ahead and check this one out right here. I think you'll find it interesting. And make sure that you go out and encourage someone today. You never know how you might just change their life. For the Bass Fishing Life, I'm your host, Steve Rogers.